Alright, starting this recording over. They're talking in the background, making some sound. Knocks, whoops, teeth chattering, and then speaking in their own language. They're 50 to 100 plus yards away from me. And once again at a friend's house, on a porch. Tag, that was a knocker. The young one snapping something or whatever he does to me. And there's some more back around behind this house. The house is actually vacant. It's well kept. There's nothing wrong with this way out in the woods. I think that was a goose. I don't know what that was. Windy-ah-oh, 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 windy-ah, windy-ooh, ee-ah-oh, ee-ah-oh, yeah. Oh. Thank you, Ski, brother. Snap. That was a young one snapping. The older one would have been. I'm hearing the female talking, so it's a loud whisper. There's a creek out here. Up above the creek across the street. This is a condenser mic, so it kind of condenses sound. If you have sensitive ears, be careful. Thank you, Ski. Alright, give him a bow. Alright, I'm going to have a little telepathic conversation with him. Down here. They're talking to each other. I'm just letting them know that I'll be home. Sorry that I'll be going home. I won't be here too long. They like to know what you're doing. I'm not staying the night here. not dogs barking. And just want to be clear, these aren't sounds I can really fake, and I do not have any hoaxers. I never got, before people ever even accuse me of hoaxing anything, I have invested already 2 years of this. Lots of money, and not gotten anything out of it. Other than, actually I've gotten a lot out of it, but nothing monetarily. I don't have my car keys in my pocket. They're around here somewhere. So anyway, it is what it is. You know, I'm not a, well, I'll prove it to you type of person. Excuse me, I don't use flashlights. And I actually took an oath to never take a picture of them, as long as they would communicate with, well, I wasn't going to do it anyway, but basically it just comes down to as long as they, I mean, I'd rather have, what I'm trying to say is I'd rather have communication than a picture of them. You're like, oh, but then you could prove they exist and blah, 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 blah. Like, you know what? They don't care. And they don't really want to be classified. Most pictures come out blurry anyway. They're all questionable. If you really digitally analyze audio down to a T, it can't be faked. Digital video, on the other hand, is pretty easy to fake. You know? Like, there's sounds here that I can't make. There's levels and noises and, you know, decibel levels and frequencies and things like that that my voice just doesn't hit on. And it also goes for the human range in general. Okay. But they're talking and whispering and carrying on. They know I'm going to sit here and read the book. That's what I was just kind of reminding them. So this is a very short chapter, and it's very just a chapter focused on my life. It's the first chapter. First thing I read was an introduction. I'm gonna check and see what time it is real quick. Okay. So it's 11:46 p.m. and it is Friday, August 12th. I think it's the date, 2022. Alright, this is a very short chapter, but you got to hear the way I introduce myself to all the family. So, Chapter 1, Blood, Sweat, and Years, and again, this is from the book He's Not Harry, He's Our Brother, by Littlefoot. I go by Brother Littlefoot on YouTube. I've always had an interest in the paranormal, after having seen things I can only describe as ghosts repeatedly as a child, and then more randomly, yet also more directly as an adult. Dropped out of high school in the 9th grade to pursue a life of drug-fueled dreams and self-destruction, only to be rerouted back to religion after having been chased by an ex-best friend wielding a Bowie knife one Halloween night in 1996 at age 16. A decision he made once he had realized that his punches had no effect on my larger-than-normal-sized head. Hang on, I'm trying to focus this. Though it took a few years after that incident, I would eventually go on to complete a GED program, earn a 1-year diploma in horticulture, stopping just 4 classes short of my 2-year degree to start my own small landscape and gardening business. Currently, I'm halfway through, actually I'm a little past halfway through now, but currently I'm halfway through an online 30-hour primatology and conservation course given by one of the world's leading primatologists who shall remain nameless, here due to the sensitivity of the subject in that field. The last endeavor came about as a result of my first Sasquatch encounter on August 2nd, 2020. I am also a Reiki Level 3 healer. Whether you believe in it or not, I've never charged anybody any money for it personally, although I'm not knocking anybody that does. I just want to be clear about that too. I'm just throwing this in there. This isn't in the book, but returning to the book, I'm also a Reiki Level 3 healer, a roughly 12-time initiated witch of the old order of gods and goddesses, and that's just going to have to be another book. Of which those initiations include coyote medicine and now Sasquatch medicine. Due to the above-mentioned incident, I am also a quote-unquote saved Christian. But hey, there's room for all kinds when it comes to the subject of Sasquatch, from outdoorsmen to researchers and scientists, and from shamans to witches. We can all learn something from one another if we are all open. A little about my family. My father grew up literally picking cotton and working a dairy farm, and is now a retired Methodist minister who once fearlessly stood up to the KKK in Mississippi in the early 1960s. And yes, that's where I get it from. You call it courage, call it stupidity, whatever. My mother taught piano at age 12 in order to help her mother pay the rent. Worked in an at-home salon. Actually went to elementary school with Elvis Presley. This is very true. As did her brother. That time. Taught high-intensity aerobics until the age of 60 and even ran a store for her brother's hot tub business successfully for more than 10 years until she sold it and retired. Both of my parents came from extremely humble beginnings. As I write this chapter now at age 44, on January 16, 2022, my parents are currently 86 and 82 years old, with my mother's 83rd birthday on the horizon now. They're actually 83 and 87. I have a sister who is 16 years my senior, married with grown children. One is becoming a policeman, while the other is already a doctor, and she works in healthcare. My brother is 11 years older than me, has one beautiful teenage daughter who is learning sign language in order to work with deaf students, and who himself works various ventures, including figuring storm damage claims for insurance companies and purchasing one home at a time to live in, fix, and then flip for profit. Though normal on the surface, both my sister, brother, and even other non-immediate family members have all expressed encounters with things they cannot explain. I guess it's in the blood. So I know that's a little short, and it's just kind of about the family more than it is about Sasquatch, but I will be reading chapter 2, which is much longer. It's about 3.5, 4 pages, something like that. Let me go over, that was a little grunt sometime. I want to go over the table of contents here again. I already read Early Signs, that's in another video here. Chapter 1 is Mud, Sweat, and Years. Chapter 2 is Love Before Fear. Chapter 3 is Intro to the Extended Family. Chapter 4, Sometimes They Follow You Home. Chapter 5, Research and Groundwork. Chapter 6, Recording and Reviewing Audio. Chapter 7, All in the Family. Chapter 8, The 10 Commandments of the Hairy Man. Chapter 9, Of the Utmost Concern. Chapter 10, The Supernatural Sasquatch. Chapter 11, Conservation and Protection of the Species. Chapter 12, In Conclusion. So you can buy my book on Kindle. I guess it's Amazon Kindle or whatever. And even if you don't have a Kindle, you can actually download an app. I think it's free. And you can actually you can go to that site and look up my book, He's Not Hairy, He's Our Brother. And you can read the first 3 chapters yourself for free. Or I'm sorry, it's the foreword and then the first 2 chapters. I apologize. But anyway, I'm kind of taking this opportunity to talk a little more, and I may share some more stories. We can let's see, well, there's a Sasquatch family at my home, and they actually, I guess it went on for about 2 months that I was playing them music every night. Let me turn this on. I was playing them music every night. That's them making all the out-of-place sounds. That's pretty much them. There's nothing else making sounds. By the way, there's no wind. Nice and cool. I'm not sweating. It hadn't been raining all day or anything. Rained good yesterday. There's little knocks and stuff. And I guess one little story I can tell is that this is just kind of a quickie, but I played music for them several nights in a row. It must have been, gosh, excuse me. I think I played music for them for an hour to 3 hours for about 2 months every night. I would play it on the computer where they could kind of see it, and I play it through a Bluetooth speaker. That's me, and I guess I got really annoying because that's just kind of the way I am. Not sure what that was. I think that's a dog. I'm talking it. I don't know. I missed that sound. That's not. Anyway. I'm having a hard time pulling one of those sounds. Oh, I'm sorry, Tag. It's because I'm moving around. Tag, if I lean forward, I hear more of them than if I sit up, I hear more of water. So anyways, I don't think there's any dogs barking right now. Usually when a dog barks, it's loud and clear. It's easy to identify. So I played him music for several nights, and I played him all different kinds of music, and I've got it on recording. It's very hard to record because you can't overwhelm the microphones with the music that I'm hearing now. Tag. So the male would whoop after almost each song, and I think what happened is I was getting too much of his attention. And I wasn't really thinking about that, and I was pulling his attention away from taking care of his family. Because that's just too much time to be doing that. They're hyper-vigilant creatures, so they need to be focused on the life around them, and of course they have to live a hyper-vigilant life. They live in the wild. So they got to watch out for things I don't know about, even little things. Agreeing with me, communicating with one another. And actually, you can tell that's a big hollow body whoop. That's not something a human can really make. I can whoop and I can get close, but it's not the same frequency. Even if it sounds the same to my ear, it's not the same frequency if you measure it. Completely different. The snaps are what that means. But played him some music, and the male at home would whoop every night after I got through playing a song. I'd say, "Do you like that?" And I'd kind of look at him. I don't see him. I'd look over their direction. I'm sorry. I've seen Sasquatches 6 times in the 2 years that I've been studying. And really, I've only seen 2 of them full on in physical form. But I'm definite about the 2 times. I'm absolutely definite. And the other times I'm definite about what I saw too, but I don't have to use that as something to say, people can believe that story or not. Actually, me and a friend actually saw one of them, but I'll tell that story too. But anyways, sorry I'm bad for bunny trailing. That's why I have to write a book so I can stay on course, stay on the right path. But so anyways, I played the music, and I think I played it too much. I got too much of their attention, and down the road one night, I heard a loud tree snap. And it was just light rain, wasn't anything else, no high winds at all. I don't even think it was a breeze. It's been raining a good bit, but not too hard. And I think he had one of his family members let me know that night is what happened, because that's kind of the way they were. And he literally whooped right after I played the last song, and I was playing Oasis. And I'm not a big Oasis fan, but I was just playing an Oasis song for him. And I think it's kind of funny because I like their music, but I don't really like the lead singer's voice. The lyrics or songs are kind of silly to me. That's just me, sorry. People might say that about music, so that's okay. But right after that song ended, I heard a loud tree snap. And I got it on recorder, but I don't know that I'll be sharing it. I'd literally have to go back through a series of 500 recordings before I'm trying to find it. I don't mark everything down anymore. I used to write everything down like I talked about in the book. But if you've been doing it for a while, you just record it, and that's good enough journal right there. Because that tells you everything that happened, even the things you forgot about, or the things you didn't know. There'll be sounds you don't hear. I've heard lots of whoops, groans, and all kind of stuff that I've picked up on the microphone. I didn't hear myself. But I drove down the road the next morning, and sure enough, there was the road crew had come through to cut the crown of the tree out of the road, because it was up on an embankment. It was probably about 20 feet up in the air, and off the road, excuse me. The embankment was about 20 feet up off the road, and they cut it all the way back to the embankment. And you could see the inside of it, and it was still pretty fresh. And I couldn't get up there. There was a bunch of poison ivy on it, and I ain't getting around a bunch of poison ivy. There's poison ivy everywhere around here. But I could definitely tell that it was pretty fresh. I think it was a poplar tree. But it was probably about, I'd say it's still over there. It's probably about 2.5 feet thick, maybe. There was a little something. I'm real used to this. Like, they're real used to me, and I'm real used to them. So this is kind of how this goes. And that goes for all the families I talk to, pretty much. And it seems like even when I meet new families now, I can relax and chill out. They're not, they really do seem to like either talk to each other, or they talk to each other telepathically. As I talk about in the book, they actually track me down out of state to, well, basically 3 different homes. And then I found another family on the side of the road, which was very interesting. And you could say, well, this guy's got to be schizophrenic or something like that. And, I understand. It's a life you have to live. It really is. It's not something that I can tell you about and you're going to believe. And I don't expect people to believe me because of these recordings. I don't expect people to believe me because of my stories. Whether or not you choose to believe someone or not is just a choice. And no one can actually tell me I'm not telling the truth unless they're with me. Well, actually then, I take that back. They can't, even then they can't. And if I ever had a friend that really wanted to prove it, me to prove it to them, and they told me, well, I think you just got friends out here making sounds or whatever. I'd take them way out in the woods, first of all, somewhere where there's no people. And, I'd show them. And if I thought about it earlier, if someone had ever accused me of hoaxing it, I'd say, well, okay, I'm going to leave you out here, and I'm going to let you get a ride home with one of my friends that's out here hoaxing this with me. I think that pretty much settled that conversation. Because if I do take my friends, which I don't have friends that are like that. They know me. They know I'm an honest person. I may be a little bit. My friends call me the good crazy. But I don't hurt anyone. I don't hurt animals. So if someone that dislikes me, it's not because intentionally tried to hurt them or something like that. And that's important. Saying that, I'm not talking about me, I'm a special person or anything. I'm just saying it's important to be that kind of a person around here with people, because they know what you're up to. They know your intentions ultimately. And they're much more intelligent than we give them credit for. And really, humans are going to have to find this out for themselves one day. And it's not up to me to prove it. If somebody really wants to know, look up a hot spot on the BFRO or something like that website, Bigfoot Research Organization or whatever. I don't really support this kind of stuff. I don't report my sightings at all. I keep them to myself. They're my friends or family. I tell people, for a book alert, I just don't say where exactly, but I can definitely say that there's someone in the office in this county that I talked to, and he's pretty high up. He's actually about as high up as you can get. I don't want to say what he holds. And I called him on the phone, and I talked about protection for the species with him. And he actually listened to me. He actually took the call at home. I don't know how I got his home phone number or cell number, but he actually talked to me while he was, off for the weekend. It was a Saturday, I think, or Sunday. And I told him about, some of my experiences, and I didn't tell him exactly where they were. I just said that, they're in the county, all over the county, and other counties too. He said, well, because my concern is that, there's that many of them around that one day people want to hunt them They might try to pass laws like they do in Oklahoma and Texas where you can actually hunt them. In one way or another. I think in Oklahoma you're not allowed to kill them, but to me I'm not giving that much credit. But I don't think they should be messed with at all. I think they should be left alone to raise their families. And I don't think we should try to get a specimen of a body because I think that's just disrespectful. You're literally taking a family member from their home. But anyways, this person high up in county office said that the only reason he listened to me and gave me an ear and gave me an honest ear tag is because he had a friend that told him that he saw one about 7 years ago, and he told me where he saw it, and I said, oh, well, that's where I know several families are. Well, I talked to several families, and anyway, so that's kind of how that conversation went. He just said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, is what he told me, and I understand, because he can't just bring up a subject like that. And, an office, out of nowhere, it would have to be brought up first. I told him there was a million reasons why this law shouldn't, such laws shouldn't be passed as far as being able to hunt these creatures, and it's not all the reasons have to do with them. I mean, humans can mistake another human for one too easily, and they could shoot, a bear or something like that out of season or whatever, or any other kind of animal out of season, because if you're looking through the woods, you can't tell what you're looking at all the time. Especially if you're looking for something you may never have actually seen before. But anyways, real quick, another story. A friend and I are at a place where I had my first encounter. And it was long before I had my actual, what I call is my first known encounter on August 2nd, 2020. I actually had other encounters, but I didn't know what was going on. At that same place where I had my first encounter, I'd heard several trees pushed down over the course of 2 years, about 7. That's a lot. And I'm way out on a mountain. There's no homes around there anyway. It's federal land. Not all I can say. And, excuse me. Me and my friend were out there and the reason I started going out there is because I'd heard about these spirit lights, UFOs, and things that could be seen out there. And we have an interest in those things. I wanted to go see them. I've seen a couple before, things I couldn't explain in the sky, but I know what satellites are, and I know what weather planes are, which only blink every 10 seconds. I know what a meteorite looks like, and doing when I was watching the sky, I'd constantly study what goes on in the sky, natural or man-made, that we know about, to try to understand what I might be seeing. Definitely I saw several things I had no explanation for. Anyway, I went there and I actually met a lot of people there, because there are other people that go to see these lights. These lights have been known about for years. And anyways, one night I took a friend up there, one of my best friends. I've been friends for over 30 years. And we were sitting up there, and we'd actually seen some lights on the mountains in the distance, far away from us. Where we were looking, there's a big clearing, so we could see off in the distance for a good ways, probably about 5 miles, and 6 miles maybe. Anyway, we were sitting in the car because it started raining, and while we were sitting in the car, my friend was sitting in the passenger side, and he started looking over to the right of him, and he was just staring at something. And the thing about my friend is that he's a great person to have out, because if he witnesses something, he's very middle of the road about it. That's me, sorry. He's very okay, I'm seeing something, and he'll sit there and try to figure out what he's saying before he says anything. And he didn't say anything. He just sat there and stared, and I finally looked around him, and what I saw was someone standing there in the rain, but I didn't see a body. And you could see through them, and the rain was just washing off of them. It looked like they were about 6 foot tall, probably big, stocky, big build. Probably about 250 pounds or more, muscle. Just huge. And I said, Brian, do you see what I'm seeing? He just nodded his head and said, yep. He's very matter of fact. We just watched it until it quit raining, and then we talked about it after it quit raining, and he described the exact same thing. You know, it put any ideas in his head. I literally, that was the first thing I asked him, was, "Do you see what I'm seeing?" And you know, after I've been studying them for a while, I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea. We thought maybe it was a ghost or something, because we heard about a lot of ghost stories up there, and actually I've had some crazy experiences up there. That's another book. But anyways, we'd also heard there was family hairy people up there. And I had heard that anyway, later on, and then I had my first encounter with it. So I connect the two. I feel like what I was seeing and what Brian was seeing was a hairy person in their, I'll call it translucent form. It did look much like Predator, like the movie Predator when he disappears. It really did. And Brian says the same thing. That's the best way to describe it. But it actually, when we looked at it and it noticed that we saw it, it looked back at us, and you could tell it was like Brian noticed too. It's like it just, you could tell it bent over and kind of cocked its head towards us. And it was about, I want to say it was about 30, maybe, no, it was closer to the car than that. Well, yeah, it's about 20 to 30 yards from the car. It wasn't far at all. Out in a big open parking lot. And it was still, it wasn't quite nighttime. There was still a little bit of daylight out, and it was actually a bright sky because it was cloudy. I think there was a moonlight behind it or something. But yes, and I've never really had, I've seen them in different forms. I've seen them in spirit form. I've actually had one, I was talking to a family one time. There was one down below me. This was this past winter. Way up on a mountain again somewhere. Actually, long distance from the first place. And I was talking to one down below me, and I knew there was one up on the embankment behind me. So that's usually how they work. If you're on the road, they'll be right below. One embankment below and one embankment above, and up in the mountains. And anyway, I was standing there talking to one below, and just turned around for a second behind me. I didn't feel anything or anything. I didn't smell anything, nothing. And as I turned around, I saw a huge silhouette about 3 feet from me of a hairy person that was at least 7 foot or more tall. And but as soon as I turned around, it disappeared. It was gone. I know what I saw. I saw it for just a split second, but just as I was turning around, I saw it out of the corner of my eye, because there was nothing behind me. There was moonlight behind me. So this thing was big and just black. Was all I saw. It was just a big black silhouette of a hairy person. Sasquatch. Muscular. I mean, I remember, the details. Seeing the arm, the right arm, as I turned to my right. And seeing like the side of the head, and then it was just gone next second. It's almost like a scene from a movie, like where it's there and then they cut it out the next scene. It really was like that. It didn't just slowly fade away or anything like that. It was there and then it was gone. And to be clear, I never felt threatened at all. I think it was just checking me out. I even said that in the recording. I said to one below, "Y'all checking me out, man." Making sure I'm not a problem. Because I think it was the first time or second time I talked to that family. So they'll be a little bit more suspicious of you the first time a lot of times. Maybe the second time, usually by the third time, they're pretty chill. And sometimes they do try you every now and then just to see how they test your reactions, So they'll do things to kind of frighten you, but they're just actually seeing how you react to it. And used to, I would, react to everything they did, and then I started chilling out, and the more I chilled out, the more they chilled out. All of them. Everyone's I talk to. And now if they're not talking to me, I'll just start talking to them, start carrying on a conversation with them, and, one-sided conversation, and then eventually they'll start knocking within the first 5 or 10 minutes. They'll start knocking and responding. I'd say that works literally probably 98 to 99.% 99% of the time. It just, since I've gotten in the groove of, going out and talking to them. But when I claim that I'm talking to over 100 families and or troops, which troops are groups of 2 males or more without a female, and I do consider 1 male and 1 female a family, because they're, to me that's, they either had children or they had the capacity for children. So, but I'm not sure exactly where it would cut down. I'd say maybe 60-40, 60 troops, 60% troops, 40% families. But I'm talking to over 100. I kind of lost count after I got over 100. But I did recount it earlier this year, and then started counting after I found more families. I found 18 families this year so far. That's only tagging up to the early part of the summer. I did find another family. Actually, I did find another family just the night before last. I just know where to look, and I feel it. I have a sense for them in they're talking in my heart, and they're connected. We're connected, they came to live near me. They've come to live near some of my friends, and it's weird. Like, they don't live near this friend. They don't live near my friend where he lives. They live near his rental home. And it's almost like they track me down to certain places that they know that I go to, or they know I'm connected to. My friend doesn't live far from here, and I've drove out here with him a couple of times. But my friends like to let me talk to them, but I'm trying to encourage my friends to talk to them more. But nobody, I'm not married. I don't have any children. I've had rough relationships in the past. Not that I'm not abusive or anything like that. It just didn't work out. I'm not going to blame anybody, certainly not on the recording that's going out to the public at all. Or I'll take the blame in that case, but just for now. But so I have a lot of time on my hands, and I've worked for myself. I'm hoping to go into semi-retirement with this book. I'd love to, but I don't plan on getting rich off of it. And a lot of my money goes, a lot of the money I make, and I live a very, very minimalist, modest life. So they're agreeing. And a lot of the money I make goes to help other people. It goes to help this work. Where I can take these families food, which there's probably about 40 families that aren't on federal land or troops, that I can actually take food to them. And the rest of them I cannot. It's absolutely against the law as far as federal land goes. So I just sing them songs, play them music or something like that, and talk to them, tell them stories. Like I'm doing right here. I talk to them just like I'm talking to humans. I do have to explain certain concepts to them. Obviously, that wouldn't have to do with humans. So, like, I have to explain money to them. I explain to them, humans have to work for money, and we use money to go and buy the things we need, like a car, like a house, like food. And I explain as much as I feel like I need to, and they understand a whole lot. And they're fast learners, certainly when it comes to language. They know what you're saying, it seems to be, and especially if you're talking about things related to nature, they understand more. But yeah, it's a very interesting life, and yes, I do spend more time with Sasquatch families and troops than I do with humans. More direct time, more long-term time. I have friends that can vouch for me on that, but again, I'm not here to prove anything. It's just not my life. I was that person, and then I realized that, when you're dealing with something that goes beyond the bounds of physics, and you step into a whole other realm of classification, and not really anything we can classify. Actually, there is no realm of classification for that, for humans. So I've really just learned that they don't really want to be in the human system. I actually felt one of them tell me, or say to me one night, ask me, when I talked to them about being classified and blah, 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 they said, well, how's that working out for you? And I'm not very happy with the way things are going on in this world, and I won't go into detail here. But anyway, and I've talked about it with them, and I just also tell them these things are my opinion, my view, that other humans may see it other ways. And I don't try to press my beliefs on them or anything like that. I really just tell them what's going on in the human world, and I will tell them how it affects me, and how it affects, well, more importantly, how it affects those that suffer because of it, the humans. And I try to explain to them why the human world is so complicated, and why people don't just accept that Sasquatch exists and things like that. And I actually played a scene from, there's a scene from Harry Henderson's. But it's when there's a man in there having dinner with a family, and Harry, the Sasquatch, is right behind him, but he doesn't know it, and they're talking about Sasquatches, and the man just blurts out, well, I just don't believe in Sasquatch, Bigfoot, blah, 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 and then they were all laughing because they knew that Harry was standing right behind him, Harry the Sasquatch, and then they said, look behind you, and he turned around and looked behind him, and he was like, oh my God, you're real. I actually showed that video to one of the hairy people at my home, one of the young ones. He's not that young, he's old enough, he's about 10 or 11. He actually told me that. They do tell me their ages sometimes, or I can guess them sometimes, and they'll knock when I do. And I just it's another thing I just have a sense for, and usually I know that it's the juveniles that talk to you the most, because they have to protect the family and watch out for the family, so they'll be the ones to hold your attention and let you hold their attention, if you are talking to them most of the time. But, the father talks and stuff, too. Children love to talk. If they like you and they trust you, they'll talk to you right away, and then the family kind of tends to trust you if the children trust you, so. But I played the Harry and Hendersons on the computer for the ones at my house, and I played that part of the movie, and they actually, and I said, this is how a lot of humans are right here. I said, they're not bad. I said, they're just ignorant. They don't know anything. And, but if they knew better, they'd love your people, and they'd be friendly, and they'd be kind to you, More than likely, not say everybody would be like that, but a lot of humans would be, nothing would be. And, so anyways, that's just some of the things I talk about right on this few of the stories. But, a couple of stories I have to share, But this recording's gone on long enough, so I don't want to kill anyone's attention span. But their sounds are beautiful to me. This is a family here. This is a mother, father, and he's about 4 years old, I think. And the child you're hearing is actually one of the ones I've seen full on. He was about 5 feet tall, and his eyes were spread pretty far apart. I saw him in a red bulb in my headlamp. And I saw him for long enough, for just about a second. I don't stare, and I wasn't trying to see him. I was trying to walk through the woods without using a bright light. And I looked up, and my red bulb was just reflecting in his eyes. And at first it scared me, and I was like, oh my God, he's got red eyes. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And I could feel his energy. It was just a child, and I was just curious, and there was no threat whatsoever. Like a feeling. And then I actually just, instead of staring at him, I just looked down and went on my way, and he was ahead of me. And when I looked back up, he was gone. He was, in my red bulb, from what I could see, I could very much make the outline out. I could see his arms and everything. I could see his shape. It'd be hard to tell exactly what color he was, but I think he was a dark color. I think they're more towards the color of black bears when they're young, which would, might get them mistaken for a bear, but and that could work in their favor too, obviously. So, I think they get redder hair as they get older, and then they get gray But then they turn brown and then they turn green. Or something roughly like that. They may be black to brown and red. It's going to be a while before I can study them, on view, on sight. So I just have to go with sounds and feelings. And a lot of this is theory. It really is. But so is physics. So, and it's the way it has to be. Like I said, I took an oath to him that I would never take a picture of him. But even if I was out walking in the woods during the daytime and found tree structures and took pictures of tree structures or footprints, and I saw one of them, I would put my camera on. And how you treat one family is how all the other families are going to know you. So if you're shitty to one family, pardon my French, if someone treats the Sasquatch family like crap, then all the other families are going to know about them that way. People worry about getting killed by them and stuff like that, and that's just really not the case. They probably just move away from you if they didn't like you. Or they might try to run you out of there. They have done that with people. I think the wilder they are, meaning the less contact they have had with humans, then the more chances of them being somewhat aggressive towards humans. But I do not want to say that's always the case. And then I think ones that are more exposed to humans, and ones that, all the ones I've come across are very friendly. I've never had any violent. My first encounter was the most violent encounter I've ever had, and I don't like to call it violent because it was just a 45-minute bluff charge, basically. And if he wanted to hurt me, he could have hurt me, and he didn't. And I actually felt him saying that to me. He said, if I wanted to kill you, I felt him saying to me, if I want to kill you, I could. And I felt like that. I felt it. I felt like he could be on top of me in a second. And I was probably 60 yards from him, 80 yards, 100 yards from him, out in an open area, open parking lot, while he was up on the embankment up in the trees crashing around. But that's in the book. But I made friends with him that night. I made peace with him that night, and I went back and made friends with him the next night. And I actually heard a mountain lion up there the next night. Sorry, not a mountain lion, a panther. We're not supposed to have mountain lions here. We're also not supposed to have panthers. So that's kind of an interesting argument. They say that Sasquatch doesn't exist, but there's also several states where panthers exist, and they say they don't exist. And I've not only heard this panther, but I've actually seen either two panthers or same panther twice. Definitely miles apart, probably about 10 miles apart. Once was in the winter, and then last summer I saw one cross. It had just crossed the road in front of me and was going off in the grass down the other side of the mountain. And I saw it. It kind of had its back to me a little bit, but I actually saw its face before it crossed the road. But it wouldn't look at my car lights. And it had the long tail, and it had a very muscular body, and it was a kind of an orange tan color. That's a dog. I'm glad a dog barks, so you can tell the difference. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I didn't get to say that at the end of the last one, but I hope you enjoy the recordings. I hope you enjoy the stories. I'm going to actually try to put some more stories on here, and I may even put some recordings. And I've got some very interesting stuff to share if I decide to. If I don't, it's not because of disrespect. I do like to remain secretive. I keep the comments shut off to protect my identity and to protect the families and where I live. Nobody wants, crazy people coming over to your home looking for Sasquatches, whether you believe in them or not. You don't want to have to deal with that. Or to any of the other places that I go to. This is kind of my thing now. It used to be something I wanted to share with the world, and now it's my own little, it's my life. And I enjoy it. I love it, and it keeps me youthful. And there's lots of people finding out on their own now, and there's lots of people out there that are researching. There are lay people that are researching just like I am. Of course, I am working on getting an education of some kind, primatology and conservation, but and I do have an education in horticulture, and that helps a lot in identifying tree structures and things like that, because I can tell how a tree actually fell 9 times out of 10, I can tell if it was a disease, or if it was wind blown, or if it rotted out, or if it was a pest. I'm not an arborist. I can't always identify exactly which pest might have killed it, or which bacteria or fungus or this, that, or the other. I can identify a few of those things. But a lot of times sampling has to be done, for those kinds of things. Tag, not every time, certainly. But I know enough, to know better, is what I'm saying. And when you walk through the woods and you see things like repeated patterns of X's and trees that are bent completely over, and I mean huge trees at times. I've seen them at least a foot thick, bent completely over and the crown down to the ground. And the tree's probably 15 to 20 feet tall, but it's bent down, the crown's bent down to the ground and weighted down by another log. And that's what I call an arch. And you'll see these repeated patterns throughout certain areas of the woods. And I actually took a friend to see a bunch of them, and we got to another part of the woods, there weren't any. And he's like, man. He's like, we just counted like 50 arches in one part of the woods, and we're walking to the next part of the forest, and there's like nothing there. I think we found like one X and something else, and that was it. And it was kind of like, man, that just doesn't make sense. I don't really need to defer to someone, a biologist or an arborist or anything like that. I know enough in horticulture to look at a tree and say, I know how it fell. And when a common sense arborist will go out with me and say, yeah, that's probably how it fell. Or I've taken one of my horticulturist friends out with me, and that's one where we looked at 50 different tree structures, and he said, man, I have no explanation for this unless the humans took the time to do all this, which would have been insane. And even then, he's like, there's ones out here that humans can't do. There's balancing acts out here that humans just can't do, and some that are too tall, some that are too big and thick, and humans wouldn't be able to bend them over without breaking or snapping them. Man, I don't know how they do that. They're amazing. And I'll talk more about tree structures in the book. Anyway, that was a look. I'm going to sign off before a car comes around the corner. It's a little after a full moon. And again, it's August 12th. Friday, August 12th, 2022. Actually, it's probably Saturday, August 13th now. It's a little after midnight. Might be about 12:30 or something. A.M., I'm sorry. But it is 1 year and 10 days, 2 years and 10 days since I had my first encounter. My first known encounter, sorry. And the other encounters I had, I talk about it in the book. So one of them may date back to 13 years, back at my home. Anyways, Tag, I've been here long enough, and I'm going to tell them good night. I'm going to get ready to leave. So, y'all have a blessed evening, day, whatever you're looking at. Y'all have a blessed life. And peace and love and well-being always. Nothing bad, for sure.